Here are a second half of a set of dining chairs. Ethan Allen, probably between 1970 and 1980. They are cherry, and I am doing a partial restoration in that I'm taking down the top. I'm going to take down the upper part and the seats of the chairs. I'm not doing the legs, I'm just going to refresh the legs. That's what the client wants. And I'm just going to go through this restoration in case you're interested. And yeah, you can watch this one. If you want to watch the first one, I'll link the video here so that you can click on it if you like, and you can watch them both back to back. I'm using a little bit of denatured alcohol to wipe down the top surface of the chair. What that will do is remove the uppermost surface because it's not polyurethane. The first set that the owner brought to me, he said that he put polyurethane on the chairs, but I don't believe that he did use that product because when I put denatured alcohol on it, it starts to remove the finish. It gets very sticky, which tells me that it's shellac. So that's what I'm doing. It actually makes it look a little bit cleaner when I first do it. Like I did with the last ones, I'm going to tape some plastic around the bottom edges so that I don't mar the bottom at all with my chemicals. Okay, and they are stripped. And I forgot these two things. So I'm going to do those tomorrow as I'm exhausted right now. Yep, I'll do a little bit of sanding tomorrow. And yep, and then we'll start our recoloring. Okay, so these chairs are all stripped. And I'm coming in this morning with just a little bit of 220 grit sandpaper. And I just want to go over the parts that I stripped just to even them out. The, the original owner they deny like making them. And it's like this, I think this happens from stuff in your pockets. That's my guess. It looks like the lines that woodworms make, but it's not woodworms. It's actually from someone sitting and yeah, sliding across the chair, and I can feel the indents there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little hot steam on that and see if I can't raise the grain and then sand it down a little bit better. But I'm going to use the steam in my iron. Work that great. These are pretty deep. I might hide them with a little shellac. I'm not really sure. I have to see. But I think it's a little bit better. Tinted shellac. It has a little bit of burnt umber in it, and I'm going to go over it with a base coat. This is the base of my color, so we're going to put that on and see what happens. So it gets applied really quickly and then wiped off. It's not put on like a stain really. You can see how easily mistakes happen. So the cherry has a lot of variation in it, and it's beautiful. And it's golden reddish, and it goes from those two colors. So I'm going to let this dry really well, and I'm going to lightly sand it down one more time, and then I'm going to go in with my stain. I'm putting on the first coat of this Czar oil stain named Premium Teak. That's the same color that I used on the other chairs. Yeah. And it is an oil stain, yes. And so then that will have to dry for a few days, 72 hours at least. So my plan is to do a stain on the upper back and on the seats, in the front of the seats, and on these arms, the captain's chairs. When that's nice and dry, I'll go over it with a light sand and see what kind of color I have. And then I will go over it with another spray shellac and just make sure that color is nice and set. So waiting for these to dry overnight, I did actually 2 quick coats and hoping that one more coat this afternoon will do it. There's like a sort of haze in there. I don't know what it is, whether it will buff down with a little bit of sanding. Some parts are beautiful, other parts, I'm not sure. So I'm going to let that dry. If worse comes to worse, I will let it dry overnight, but I think it should dry this afternoon. It's pretty early right now. And yeah, I'll come back and do some very, very fine sanding just to see if I can get the finish nice and smooth. So yeah, these chairs are in a little bit worse condition in some ways than the original 3. But I think all in all, they'll be fine once they're done. And so I've been doing a French polish. I did it several times yesterday. And today I'm going to go over it again with a little bit of 4-aught steel wool and take off any dust nibs or anything. And then I'll do a few more coats of the French polish. And yeah, after the French polish is dry, tomorrow morning I'll take off the bottom tapes and I will freshen up the legs. I'm going to do the legs with some Restore finish. That's what I did with the last ones. They don't need anything. I just want them to be clean and fresh and to be able to match the tops of the chairs. So yeah, I will show you one coat of the French polish so that you'll be able to see what I'm doing. So I'm going to freshen up my materials because that one that I was using I've had for a while, so I figured I would do it on the camera so that you could see what I'm doing. And this is just a cheesecloth. It's a grade 90, and I'm going to take some lint-free fabric and I'm going to make my a ball out of this, the inner core out of this lengthy fabric, and then I'm going to wrap it in 2 layers of the cheesecloth. So I just wanted to tell you that that's what I was doing. And yeah, so let me cut up my cheesecloth. I'm going to toss the old one out. And I can re-dip into the shellac. With the last one, the first one is dry enough because I have denatured alcohol in here, so it dries really quickly. And yeah, I think it's fun. If you like doing things like this, it's kind of a non-thinking job. The only thing you have to think of is not to keep going over the same spot twice in a short period of time. So you want to go over one spot and then move to the next section and go down another spot. It just puts on the thinnest layer of shellac, but at the same time it smooths it down. It's just a beautiful process. Now sometimes if you have a wood like oak, you can put a little bit of I want to say it's like lime powder. I'll put it in the video right here. I do have some. I don't often use it, but that can actually help to fill in some of the deep grain, and it makes the finish really smooth. The name is right on the tip of my tongue, but it always escapes me. But anyway, I'm going to keep doing that. And I'll do it off camera and catch up with you in a little bit. And so I will come back this afternoon and take the covers off of the legs and finish up the legs. And then tomorrow morning, I will do a nice light wax on the parts that I just did. And yeah, they should be all ready to be picked up and go home. Thank you for watching this partial restoration of some 1980s Ethan Allen Windsor back cherry dining room chairs. These 3 were in worse shape than the first 3, but they still came out really nice. What I ended up doing, the first set, I had struggled with the finish because when I got to the lacquer blushed and I had to take them all down, and they ended up with a shellac finish. So this time I knew better. Even though it's not cold, I actually didn't want to take the chance. So what I did was I did a French polish, which is, wow, I did it over a couple of days. And I don't really count, but I would say between 20 and 30 layers of shellac. Now that's not huge layers. It's very thin. In the shellac for a French polish, I dilute with some denatured alcohol because that enables that wet layer to dry really quickly. So I can continually go over it and create a really nice finish with it. It is a bit shiny, and this has a fresh coat of wax for a final layer. And I'll let the owner know that if he sees some smudges or anything, because it's a new wax, he can just wipe it down a little bit. If he has any trouble, he can call me. But I'll give them a wipe down one more time before he picks them up this afternoon. But they look good. They're such beautiful chairs. I'm so glad that he opted to keep them and not upgrade to something that isn't nearly as nice. The cherry is gorgeous. Each one is different. It has its own personality. And some of the parts of the cherry, you really notice this when you're doing the final finishes, but something like this, I just think that's just so gorgeous. Look at that wood grain. It's fantastic. And this is really nice. This is the one that had the deep gouges. They're still there. You can still see them. But it's so much better. It's a lot better. And yeah, you'd never know really, unless you, I know because I'm the one that did the finish work and I'm picky about it. So I can see those scratches, but look how beautiful that is. It's really beautiful. Let's see if I have any more really pretty sweet spots here. Yeah, they're all beautiful. Each have their own personality. This is part of the grain. It's just very unique looking. So yeah, this one's very light and has a few dark slats in it. And this one has the heart. Very beautiful. So yeah, I hope he's happy, and thank you for watching. If you're not subscribed, would you consider subscribing? And let me know what you think of these restorations. Would you do it? Would you like it if you did it? And yeah, let me know your thoughts on this, and I really appreciate it. Thank you again for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your weekend, and I wish you all good and beautiful things. Oh, I could fix that. Hey there. Here's this week's project. And I keep looking at this little child's chair. It's an oak, solid oak children's chair. Um, I have to look up some information about when it could possibly have been made. It is made with some flat screws or single slotted screws and some nails. And I don't know, I'm guessing probably early 1900s, but I'll find out more when I look it up. And I'll add a picture right here of what the tag on the bottom says because it's in great condition. It's like no one ever touched it, even to clean it. It has some chips in it, And I'm going to see what I can do with that. There's a little chip on the edge of the leg here on the right. But it seems like the stretchers are very tight. Everything's very tight. Nothing is loose. And so, yeah, I'm going to refinish it because it's just too cute. Um, so, yeah, let's see what happens with this. And yeah, we'll start with, actually, I'm going to use a little bit of TSP to clean this up because it probably has a lot of hand oils and things like that. So, yep, let's get started on this and we'll see what we can do with it. So, I just want to assess how old the screw might be so that I can get an idea of how old the chair might be. And it's a machined screw, and as they've been machining screws since the 1800s. So one way we can look at it is to see that it's it's a tapered screw, so that means it's later. It comes to a point, which also means that it's later, 1900s or late 1800s. And that slotted top is nice and even, and it looks like it was done by machine. And the joinery of the chair, it's mortise and tenon, and I say that because I've seen it before, but they've kind of tacked it, which is kind of usual. You see that they do the insertion and then they tack it with a little nail. A new sort of jig to hold my chair. So I had to make some sort of jig to hold the chair in the right position. And so I'm using my lower bench with a few additional planks so that I can actually hammer gently onto the top of the leg without it jiggling and wiggling around. So, let me give you a long view of that. Yep. preparation here is key on getting this nice and square, because I've made the mistake of, schlepping out on, oh, I'll cut a piece that fits in there. And you can, but it's so much easier if you get this as square as possible before you start to carve in your new piece. I'm going to finish doing all the prep first. Here I'm scraping, and I'll also sand. No stripper though. This is a piece of 120 grit sandpaper wrapped around a soft sanding block type of sponge.
Oh, I'm sorry. How are you?
Good, how are you?
It's capital J, then all the rest are.
Well, let's mix up some oxalic acid after we did all that sanding. And yeah, I'm going to mix it with some hot water. I don't need a lot. It's a little chair. And just put a little bit in there, a little hunk, and a couple of small glasses of hot water out of the microwave. Yeah. So let's see how we did. Last night I gave it a good rinse after the oxalic acid. And yeah, I mean, it's far from perfect. And oops, it needs a little bit of sanding, obviously, especially because, like you said, it lifts the fibers. That water lifts up the wood fibers, and so we need to sand it back down again. Yeah, but it's better. I'm going to add an angle to my sanding so that fibers that are standing up will be knocked down. Not a huge angle, just a little bit of an angle. And then I'll finish it by going in the same direction as the grain. So, like I said, a little bit of an angle, like a 15-degree or so. So that came out really good. We're going to have to see what that looks like after we get some color on it. Yeah. I'm going to sand it again with 220. If I had 180, I would rather use that. But I'm going to use the 220 and just go over it a little by hand. Okay, I like the shellac finish, so let me show you what we have so far. It's reveals the wood as being nice and warm, a golden oak color, and I want to keep that, but I want to enhance it a little bit. And so something I like to do is to mix some of my pigments in with the shellac, and sometimes, not always, um, I use a little bit of denatured alcohol along with it, just to kind of water it down. Now, putting pigment in the shellac is a very mild way to add color, and you can put on as many coats as you like. You can add a little more pigment if you like. It's just the shellac takes the dye or pigment right into the pores, so it's a very, very nice way to enhance the natural look of the wood, the natural green. And the denatured alcohol is just part of the shellac anyway, since shellac is made with the flakes and with the alcohol. So I'm going to put on a mask because it's kind of strong. So one other good reason to add the denatured alcohol is that when you have a furniture piece, there are so many parts to it and the shellac dries really fast. When you add the pigment to shellac, sometimes it starts to dry in certain areas. And if you go over it with just the regular shellac with the pigment in it, it discolors a little bit from the brush, like it just gums up a little bit. But with the denatured alcohol, if you put more product on it and rub it back and forth, it actually breaks down the previous swipe of shellac. So just something to remember. I'm sorry I didn't get any footage of that dye marker going on. So this morning we're going to add some more color here, and I'm going to give it a bit of a sand first because we have the tinted putty. All in all, it looks pretty good. Get that sanding dust off. Look at this beautiful grain, huh? Looks so lovely now. These are the liners. Hopefully I have a little bit of, yeah. I need to unglove here because it's better with a raw hand. Now, this looks, kind of sketchy, but I'm going to add color over it. Okay. Now that has a very bright light on it. I'm going to let that dry, and then I'll go over it again with the 600 grit sandpaper, and yeah, then we'll add our oils, and we will be done. Today we're going to use this Melange organic hemp oil. Anyone who is, you know, concerned about kiddos using something, piece of furniture like this, well, you shouldn't let them chew it anyway. But and truthfully, any finish once it's dry, because I don't do lead finishes anymore. You shouldn't let kids chew on furniture, but basically, if someone licked it or something, it wouldn't be poisonous. But this makes people feel better, I think, and especially because if it's going to actually go to a child, it's a good feeling to do that. Now I'm using this 4-aught steel wool because it's kind of my final sand, and so it works to do both things. It's doing the final sand, and it gives the oil a nice um, encouragement to get into those grains. And if you're thinking, well, there's shellac on it, the oil won't go into the grain. Well, it does, though, because shellac is a very friendly product, and the oil will penetrate right through the shellac. That's why it doesn't make an awesome finish. I love it, but it's not something you want to put wet glasses on and so forth and so on. It won't take a lot of abuse. But the good thing about shellac is you can degrade it with a little bit of alcohol if you wanted to freshen up the finish and give it a light sand and add more shellac. That's something that you can always do. And it really grasps onto the cells of the wood. So it's my go-to finish, and I love to use shellac with oil on restorations. So if that helps you decide what you'd like to do. So we will catch up when I get to the buffing part. I'm going to oil this entire chair, and then I'm going to go over it with a nice dry lint-free cloth. Hey, thank you for watching this week's video. This week I worked on a little child's chair, and the company was Paris Manufacturing in Paris, Maine, and I actually couldn't find out anything about this particular model. I saw another model that was a little bit more modern and more Art Deco, if you will. I was actually thinking that this piece might even have been a salesman's sample, um, because of the simplicity of the way that it was made. Not that that's bad. I would like it actually, compared to the one they had with the Art Deco. I liked this model better. And I'm just throwing that out as a guess. I really don't know. I know that the company, Paris Manufacturing, was created in the mid 1800s, late mid 1861, I think, and they are a sled manufacturing company. So that's kind of interesting. I think they made the PF Flyer, and that's a really popular sled. So this was a secondary business for them as far as making furniture. And I think it was all pretty much aimed at children or young people. So this is oak, as far as I can tell. Beautiful grain. I think it's the white oak. And it did have a chip on the bottom of the leg, one of these, over this side, I guess. I'll show you a close-up afterwards of, I got it as good as I could. We carved it in, added the dye stains and so forth. Let's see. So it's not perfect, and I like to leave the antiques with their original, I know the word isn't patina, but patina, um, with its original soul and presentation. So I like to fix things that are broken, and that's okay. I mean, that's my prerogative. But as far as removing every single blemish, I think it takes away its authenticity if you do too much of that. So it doesn't have any putty on the surface. So you can still see all the dings. The only putty I used was a tinted putty right around where I did my carving. And that was just to hide the seam, help hide the seam. So yeah, let's see, what did we do? We did a lot of sanding. I used several coats of shellac. Then I tinted the liquid shellac with some burnt umber, and it gave it just a hint of depth for the natural oak. We used the melange hemp oil as a finish, and you could argue with that. I think it's a nice and natural product. Anyway, it's nice and solid. It's so cute. I do love it. It has a beautiful shape. It's in beautiful condition. Um, and yeah, I hope it would make some little kid very happy. And we learned a little bit about tinting the shellac. My advice is to, if you're going to do that, to put a little denatured alcohol in it. And then if the shellac drips at all, or if you get a little bit of gumminess on your joints or anything that you want to remove, you just dip, a little rag or a Q-tip into the shellac with the denatured alcohol and dye and rub it out, and it will come right out, and you can put another seamless finish over it just like that. So it's fun to do. It's very easy. It's kind of a tricky finish to use the liquid shellac because you do tend to get drips, so you may not like that. But I don't mind. I'm just take my time and do it, and I'll fix the things that I messed up. So again, thank you so much for watching, and thank you very much again. I hope you have a great rest of your weekend, and I wish you all good and beautiful things. Take care.
Should old acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind? Should old acquaintance be forgot and days of old lang syne? For old lang syne, my dear, for old lang syne, we'll talk a cup of kindness yet for days